on the college scene as well, and it's with NIL. And look, we all know that when NIL hit, all hell broke loose. Manuch, how are they going to put this together? Because this new thing that they are attempting to try, and Jax has the information on it, so I'll let you dive into what this new is now from the NCAA.
So the NCAA office sent a memo to member institutions today in which the organization clarified the NIL, which stands for Name, Image, and Likeness Policy. So basically the updated explanation urges schools to follow their policies over what state policies already set in stone, what state legislators. And right now there's 32 states that have adopted their own version of NIL regulations. But the NCAA says that most of that language that they've used is barring their own policy. So for example, the memo reiterates that boosters may not have direct contact with recruits during the recruiting process to discuss potential NIL opportunities. For example, remember Jaden Rashada, ASU freshman quarterback?
Yep.
He was allegedly promised $13 million from a Florida booster. That ended up not working out, and he had to get out of his letter of intent to change schools. The memo also reads that if a state law permits certain institutional action and the NCAA prohibits that same action, institutions must follow the NCAA, not the state.
So the NCAA wants whatever state actions have to follow their guidelines, is what that tells me, Jax. Is that what they're saying here?
Yeah, and they should have said that from the beginning.
Yes,
since
they should have.
When Congress passed the law saying that people can make NIL, it just all hell went loose.
Well, when they took the top of that bottle off the genie's bottle and that bad boy got out, or let the cat out of the bag, we said this, guys. You know, Rock and I talked about this when this first came out, that this got out there, and it was ollie income free. Everybody's out there on their own. I remember Spencer Rattler was one of the very first ones. He was kind of the poster child.
He was.
At Oklahoma. All of a sudden, he's getting all this stuff out there, and he's got this going on and that going on. And it was interesting because he had stuff coming out like the day it was mentioned. He was out there front and center. He was kind of the initial poster child. He's out in South Carolina doing his thing. And then you had all these guys making contacts. Now, the way I understand it, with the collective, is what it seems like that's got to be the focal point for all the colleges, is for all these sponsors or whatever to go through the collective, but they haven't. So they've been either going with a representative or going directly to a lot of the players in reference to giving them whatever money they have. So I think right now with the NCAA is they're way behind the eight ball as far as trying to get this corrected and make some sense out of it. And then the state legislatures want to make sure that they're involved with everything as well, too.
Yeah, so additionally to all of this, the intertwining, this is another part of the memo, the intertwining of the NIL fundraising with university fundraising allows boosters to receive athletic department benefits is prohibited of the NCAA rules. For an example, Texas A&M, a school that started their own fund, it's called the 12th Man Plus Fund, which built and raised NIL dollars to the university and to their athletes, is now prohibited. Now, in Texas A&M's defense, Texas came out with a bill called the Texas House Bill 2804, which will be into effect July 1st, that prohibits and prevents the NCAA for banning or probation towards Texas A&M. So they already knew ahead of time the NCAA was going to not like what they're doing.
Yeah.
So they made a bill so that the NCAA can't penalize Texas A&M, because if they do, it's just going to trigger a ton of lawsuits later on. So for those out there wondering about the Texas A&M, it was a whole, I believe it was like $200 million that they invested towards these athletes. And most of those athletes actually that got that money are either in jail or off the team now. Most of those freshman guys.
That's amazing.
So long story short, with all of this, you can't barter, you can't communicate with these recruits early on about certain NIL stuff. And I think all the NIL deals has to be not with the university funded and with the boosters. It's got to be like brands such as Nike and Raising Cane's and Lambo and stuff like that. But it also goes on to say about Miami's situation and how they're actually going to face some fining and some probation for what they did with the Cavender twins.
The inmates have been running the asylum with this from that. Now, the whole thing about incoming freshmen, not being able to deal with sponsors directly. Well, that's where you're recruiting, who's ever recruiting that individual, and wherever the collective is, or wherever your negotiation is, or whoever your I call it the go-between guy. They're going to understand. Okay, we've got a 5-star quarterback coming into our school. We want to make sure he's taken care of. They just don't want that recruit connecting with the sponsor or the brand. They want to go through the school, and that in lines with that is that whoever's recruiting him will have, whoever the quality control is, whoever's controlling a lot of that, will have that in mind is, okay, if you come to Arizona State University, your NIL deal will be $2.5 million a year. That's what you're going to get, aside from everything, your scholarship and what have you. So I think what the NCAA is saying, freshmen can't contact, and we want to get control of it. And Texas said, no, you're not. We've got a bill that says we can just do what we've been doing, and we can connect, and you have no jurisdiction with our colleges. By the way, A&M's a private school.
It is.
With no colleges whatsoever, so they got way ahead of it, and they did it. They superseded by putting a bill through it to make sure that those players at A&M or UT Austin, SMU's a private school, or Texas Tech or whomever can do their thing like they have been.
My biggest pet peeve.
Good luck, NCAA.
My biggest pet peeve with NCAA, and they always do this with certain rules. It's like they don't act quick enough to put some rules or regulations out there, so they're going to penalize the schools like Miami that when there were no rules or regulation and they were doing what they're doing, but they're going to penalize them months later because they weren't smart enough to set guidelines when this whole NIL thing started.
They are always late to the party.
That's what makes me mad. But why are you
3 minutes
late to the party? Why are you going to penalize those?
Here's
schools?
what happened. Remember the Supreme Court ruled that the players were allowed to go ahead. The name, image, and likeness was passed that said you're not giving them the opportunity to go ahead and earn above and beyond what they're earning. So they pretty much voted in favor of the athletes. They took that ball and ran, so to speak, and went out there on their own and started to get a lot of things going way ahead. Before putting that saddle on that thoroughbred, that horse was out of the barn, man. There wasn't a rider on it. He just went, he took off, and now they're trying to get control of it. Guys, I don't know if they'll ever get control of it. The only thing I could see that would help this is when I hear this and read this and see this, is that the NCAA wants to have a focal point for every athlete that comes on that campus and to eliminate those recruits from having any interaction with anybody outside the campus. Booster, sponsor, they all want it all in-house. Well, good luck.
Yeah, really.
And it ain't going to work in Texas, that's for sure.
2 minutes.
Because, guys, you know it's the United States of Texas and the rest of them.
That's pretty much, at least that's the way they think. Here's a little known fact.